Hey, what's up guys? Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. I recently just got a request to do a video about sweep picking, and as soon as I got this lesson request, the first thing I thought about was this to-do list that I made about 7 years ago. Unfortunately, life got in the way, so I never actually got around to completing all the items on this checklist, so I never actually became a sweep picking shred master like I intended to. It's not to say I'm never going to do that, it's just that in order to do that, you have to discipline yourself to actually sit down at a metronome and basically ingrain the proper subdivisions into your brain such that you can feel exactly what the right subdivision sounds like and then work your speed up until you achieve the desired tempo. That's what it takes. So what we're doing here in this video is essentially just a watered down version of that. So we're just doing 3 notes at a time. It still counts as a sweep. I'm still doing the sweeping technique. I'm just sweeping just 3 notes. If you take this exact thing, but you turn it into, say, 12 notes or 24 notes or something like that, that's the shred style sweep picking that most people are familiar with. So when it comes to sweep picking, there's 2 components. Number 1, there's the actual notes that you play. And then number 2, it's the subdivision at which the notes are played at. So the actual notes that you play are more often than not going to be an arpeggio. Alright, so an arpeggio is simply just a chord, but you're just playing the individual notes of the chord. So if you wanted to play an A minor arpeggio, you would look at the notes of an A minor chord. The notes of an A minor chord are A, C, and E. So if you play the notes A, C, and E 1 note at a time, that's an A minor arpeggio. And then the second component is the speed at which these notes are played at. So more often than not, when you hear these sweep picked arpeggios, you're hearing them at a speed that is 16th note triplets. So 16th note triplets is extremely fast. Even if your metronome is set at a slow tempo or a relatively slow tempo of, say, 100 BPM or something like that, or 105 BPM, what you're doing in order to achieve 16th note triplets is to fit 6 notes for each click. So if your metronome is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's quarter notes. So 16th note triplets at that speed, you're fitting 6 notes for each click. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't even count it. I can't physically say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fast enough to keep up with the clicks. So when it comes to counting 16th note triplets, people will just make up words that have 3 syllables in it, and then they'll just say the word twice. I always just go degada, degada, degada. So degada, 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 degada. And even that's kind of a tongue twister. The way I always do it, if I really want to hear what 16th note triplets sounds like at a desired BPM, I just open up Reaper. You can do this in any DAW. Put on a click track, and then I just kind of put a little synth sound set to 16th note triplet speed, and then I just kind of know what 16th note triplet sounds like at that speed. So that's what 16th note triplet sounds like at a tempo of 105 BPM. So an example of one of my favorite guitar players, Alexi Laiho, rest in peace. This is an example of him starting out a solo, immediately going into 16th note triplet speed, and doing a very nice 12 note sweep, also played at the 16th note triplet speed. Check it out. Alright, so now that you know what 16th note triplets sound like played over a few bars, we're essentially doing the same exact thing here in this lesson. It's just that we're only going to be playing 3 notes at a time. So they're still played at 16th note triplet speed at whatever the tempo that you're playing at, but we're just playing 3 notes. And also we're only going to be doing downstroke sweeps. So for most people, myself included, I find it easier to sweep in a downward direction than I do in an upward direction. So in this lesson, we're just doing downstroke sweeps, 3 notes at a time. In order to count this, in order to count these 3 notes, number 1, you have your metronome click, whatever the speed of the track is that you're playing. The demo that I did in the beginning was at 120 BPM. So let's say your count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You then subdivide that into 8th notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's 8th notes now. So the series of 3 notes, the 3 16th note triplets, is going to start at exactly the upbeat of the 4th count. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, degada 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, degada 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, degada 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, and so it's right on the upbeat of the 4th count. So the downbeats are the 1, 2, 3, 4, the upbeats are the end. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right there on the upbeat of the 4, that's where you're fitting in those 3 notes. So all the chords in the rhythm section were from the key of A minor, so I only needed to focus on one single scale the entire time. That was the A natural minor scale. And I just kind of limited my playing to just this little area right here, which is pentatonic position number 4 in the key of A minor. So everything was played right here between frets 12 and 15. At one point I kind of played a note that was a little out of that range, but the majority of the solo is right here in pentatonic position number 4. So there was 3 arpeggios that I mapped out in this little area. I mapped out an A minor arpeggio spanning 3 strings. I mapped out an F major arpeggio spanning 3 strings and a G major arpeggio spanning 3 strings. So the A minor arpeggio, the notes of an A minor chord are A, C, and E. So this is the arpeggio I played. So here's an A, here's a C, here's an E. So if you just kind of sweep across that. And then when I got to the 4th note, I was just aiming for a scale note. It didn't necessarily need to be, one of the notes of the arpeggio. I just kind of used my ear as my guide for what the 4th note was to be. So it's the 3 notes that are abiding by the 16th note triplet speed, but then on the 4th note, that's where you kind of go back into slower style playing. So for the A minor arpeggio, it was. So that's what I was doing for the A minor arpeggio. So it's the 16th note triplet speed as I swept across these 3 strings. For the F major arpeggio part, I swept across these 3 strings and I came up to this note, which is the 17th fret of the B string. So that's what I was doing for the F major arpeggio part. And then for the G major arpeggio, I just kind of played these notes right here. So this is a G major arpeggio right here, just 3 notes of it. All right, so it's a little harder to kind of roll off when everything's on the same fret like that. So it almost sounds like you're just playing the chord. All the notes kind of ring together. And then the next thing is, where exactly do you fit these in? Like what's the timing? So we already know the timing of the notes. The actual 3 notes that you're playing is going to be the 16th note triplet timing or subdivisions. But where exactly do you start the arpeggio at? So the way that I like to do it is it's like right at the end of the chord that you're on at the time. So if you go back and watch the demo again, it's, the A minor chord is the first chord. So right at the very end of the A minor chord, like A minor 2, 3, 4, da-da-da. So right at that upbeat of the 4th count of the A minor chord, that's where I might throw in that little A minor arpeggio at. All right. So you're still on the A minor chord. It's just at the very end. Either that or at the very end of the preceding chord. That's another way to do it. So if the preceding chord is the F major chord, and then the next chord coming next would be the A minor chord, right at the very, very end of that F major chord, F, 2, 3, 4, da-da-da. So I might do either an F major arpeggio there, because it's still on the F at that point, or I might do an A minor arpeggio because that's the next chord coming up. It's all about using your ear. Whatever your ear tells you is the best way to do it, that's the way to do it. And then the final point I want to talk about in this video is these are not to be confused with the rake technique. So the rake technique is awesome. I use it all the time. But the rake technique is just kind of muting all the strings. You're just going. It doesn't matter what notes you're playing. You're just muting stuff. You're still doing a sweeping pattern, but you're not actually playing specific notes. These little mini sweeps that we're talking about here in this lesson, when you actually add notes into the mix, that sounds different than doing this. So when you actually play the notes, then you're doing these little mini sweep arpeggios. When you just do the rake, you're just doing a rake. A lot of times, I'm guilty of this as well. I may attempt to do one of these little sweep arpeggios, but I may not do it perfectly, and then it kind of sounds like a rake anyway. And it's not the end of the world if that happens, So if you're just like, the notes didn't really ring out clear, but if you really want to get the sound of each note, just kind of practice, get that feeling down. If you really want to hear the sound of each note, just be aware that there's a difference between the rake and the sweeped arpeggios. Alright, so that's going to do it for today's video. Nice short lesson today. So when I do actually become a sweep picking shred master, I'll definitely do a follow-up video on this, and we can take this little 3-note concept and we can expand it to 12 notes or 24 notes or something like that. Of course, I can always map out the notes for you. I've done many, many lessons about that. I do encourage you to do that yourself, though. Just, saying to yourself, okay, A minor arpeggio. How can I map out an A minor arpeggio? Just the process of finding the notes A, C, and E on the fretboard and then making up an arpeggio pathway for yourself. Just doing that is going to be a huge learning experience. I've done many, many videos on it before, but you can only watch so many videos. Actually doing it yourself is going to just make you learn so much more. All right, so highly recommended just working out these arpeggio pathways for yourself. And that's that. So thanks again for watching. Stop by, check out my website, zombieguitar.com. Stop by, check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/zombieguitar. See you guys next time.